The 7 levels of Gen Z addictions. Let's go.
Avocados from Mexico.
Level 1 is obviously video games. This addiction was probably introduced to you at a very young age and was a great way for some affordable babysitting for parents, with the downside of absolutely frying your brains and leading you to playing some degenerate games down the line. Now, it's different today where kids are instantly hooked up to a tablet straight out of the womb and are addicted to Baby Shark and Tung Tung Tung. But back in the day, because Gen Z is starting to become the old generation, for most Gen Z kids, video games, specifically consoles and handhelds, were our first addictions besides milk from your mother's teats. Personally, I had a Wiggles addiction, fruit salad, yummy yummy, but video games was a close second. I started playing video games at the age of 4, and to be quite frank with you, I lacked adult supervision my formative years, aka was poor and way too many mouths needed to be fed. So I was playing games like COD super young for like 14 hours a day. Watching the opening World at War scene has led to me consuming some questionable content, to say the least, growing up. Now, the consoles Gen Z grew up with included things like the TRES, the Wii, the 360, DS's, and if you were late Gen Z, newer generation PlayStation and Xboxes, and the Switch. I grew up with a GameCube, which should tell you my financial situation growing up and what age of the Gen Z scale I fall under. Ultimately, I have this addiction at level 1 because I don't think it's a really bad addiction, but like most things, too much of it obviously can be bad. And unlike most addictions, not playing video games can be something you randomly stop doing because you lose interest. I have stopped playing video games because I've lost interest.
Avocados from Mexico.
Level 2 would be the internet. Nowadays, internet and video games would be switched around, but at least for me, I didn't have access to the internet until my age reached the double digits. Now, a internet addiction, you could argue, should be at a higher level, especially because of social media and how damaging doom scrolling is and all the negative effects of it. But it's been pretty much normalized, and so I'm also going to normalize it because I'm not different. You could say millennials were the first ones to have this addiction, but it was perfected under Gen Z. I'm talking access to any and all sites you could easily be addicted to and spend your whole day on. If you're a real ball knower, Pop Tropica was that site back in the day. And before Discord was a thing, Skype was the site where you got groomed at. Of course, some unsavory sites or sites that were quite savory to the eye were visited, which leads me to level 3 of Gen Z addictions.
Avocados from Mexico.
Level 3, the corn addiction. Kind of like an internet addiction, you could make a strong argument that this should be much higher, but it's so normalized that I can't put it higher, and I currently have this one, allegedly. So to make myself feel better about this addiction and to pretend it's not that big of a deal, it's going to be level 3. Now, the only way to truly have this addiction is through the internet and puberty, unless you were shooting blanks to magazines in elementary school. Of course, you could have discovered corn through other forms of media like magazines, X-rated video media, or staying late up at night scrolling through your cable channels and stumbling across it. But I discovered it through the internet and it changed my life, arguably for the worst. And this addiction has constantly evolved over time with things like OF and social media apps like Instagram, which are damn near corn sites or advertisements for them nowadays. Since I'm a very frugal guy and I'm very resourceful, aka I like to sail the seas, I don't pay for corn, but some people are so deep into it that they be dropping bans on bans just to talk to some of these women online, which is actually probably a dude cosplaying as a woman. Like I said, this probably should be higher or even level 7, but I'm only human after all.
Avocados from Mexico.
Level 4 Gen Z addiction would be shopping. This addiction you kind of need money for, which requires a job. My bad. But this is a more modern Gen Z addiction. With the rise of online shopping, I've seen so many people of Gen Z with this addiction. According to AI, which we all know is always reliable, 35% of Gen Z has a shopping addiction, mainly stemming from impulse buying from social media, but also because Gen Z financially is kind of doomed, which has led to increased spending. Buy anything you want from the internet within a few clicks. This addiction is easy to obtain and can be very damaging financially and mentally. When I got my first job at 16, my first few checks I got, which to keep in mind were like a few $100s because I was making like $9.65 an hour, was purchasing things off Amazon like I was Paris Tipton.
You stupid.
When I tell you, some of the fits I unleashed onto my high school were borderline criminal. And it wasn't because I was flooding my school with my drip. If anything, I was causing a drought. How I didn't get the Disney bully treatment like wedgies and swirlies was either a miracle or a missed learning opportunity. Luckily, I grew out of it because I can be pretty frugal, but a lot of people just don't, and this addiction can stick with you for a long time.
Avocados from Mexico.
Level 5 of Gen Z addictions is DoorDashing or any fast food delivery apps. Now, this addiction is so high up purely because no one talks about this addiction or don't see it as a bad thing, or they think it's even a necessity. Like, pretending it's normal to spend close to $1,000 a month on DoorDash, but it's okay because they got the Dash Pass and saved a few dollars. Saying things like making meals is too time consuming, time is money. You're not a boss, bro. You're not him. The amount of excuses given for this addiction is insane because of how preventable and unnecessary it is. In reality, human beings are gluttonous creatures, Gen Z included, and we like good eats, as one might say. And eating food, especially unhealthy, salty, and sweet consumables, is something people get addicted to, especially Gen Z because of things like depression and stress, which eating food will give you comfort.
Avocados from Mexico.
Level 6 is sports betting. With the rise of sports gambling, specifically online sports gambling, this addiction has gotten Gen Z men specifically in a chokehold. I feel like I've said chokehold a lot. The amount of delusion in this addiction is ridiculous, just gambling in general. Everyone thinks they're so smart, and if the player they betted on could have gotten one more rebound, he would have won $100. Or, bro, I only spent $50 because they gave me $200 in bonus bets. Even though you can't spend that $200 unless you win enough bets to match the $200. And what usually happens is that they lose that $200 and keep on betting to get that $50 to put back in. And it just snowballs. I promise you, you're not smarter than these betting apps. There is a reason why there are billion-dollar companies and have ads plastered everywhere. They make money off of you. Sports betting will just lose you money, and the few people who do win, maybe you're one of the lucky ones watching this video, congrats. You're him or her, I guess. I understand sports betting can be fun as it gives you a reason to watch the games, more stakes. Shoot, I had a 5-month stretch of sports betting, and even though I lost $700, it was fun. It got me into baseball, which for the longest time I didn't watch because I thought it was boring. Now I watch the sport because I used to sports bet. But overall, you probably shouldn't sports bet. Like with credit cards, most young people shouldn't have full access to a credit card because they would just spend money recklessly. Same thing for sports betting. Only people who can afford and have discipline should sport bet.
Avocados from Mexico.
Finally, level 7, nicotine. This really shouldn't have come as a shock since nicotine and Gen Z mix as well as Mexicans and Panda Express. It always surprises me at how many of Gen Z vape because I feel the number is much higher than reported online. I remember I was working in the freezer at work with a few guys my age, and one of them pulled out a vape and asked if they wanted to hit. Out of the 5 guys in the cooler, all but me took a puff. Also, even if I did vape, I wouldn't be sharing with people because of the fear of contracting some unknown African STD, or maybe I would be so addicted that I wouldn't care. That's another thing about vaping is that if you're addicted, you're addicted. I'm sure you've seen the videos of people stealing people's vapes to get a reaction, and holy do they trip out. I'm talking if the weight of the world slipped from Atlas's hands and was about to hit someone's vape, they would catch it to save the vape. Vaping is just like any addiction, which it's hard to quit and has negative effects with it. Is it effects or effects? I don't even care. And I fear it may become more normalized. I remember years ago how anti-vape everyone is, getting spammed with ads, and then people started to hit a couple puffs and all of a sudden it's not a problem anymore. So yeah, that was the 7 lows of Gen Z addictions. Some people have one of them, some people have 2 of them. I don't think I've ever met a person who doesn't have at least one of these addictions. And someone has all of them. Oh, I'm reckoning if you're watching this video or watching this type of content, you have all of them. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and adios.